Imagine walking into your local Walmart tomorrow and finding half the shelves empty. Not because of supply chain issues, not because of a natural disaster, but because thousands of workers just vanished overnight. Well, that's exactly what's happening right now across America, and what I'm about to show you will completely change how you see our economy. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to break down the massive labor crisis that's hitting everything from your grocery store to the farms that grow your food. This isn't just about politics. This is about your wallet, your family, and the hidden dependency that's about to reshape America forever. Let's start with something you probably haven't heard on the mainstream news. Walmart, America's largest private employer, is losing workers at a rate that's never been seen before, and I'm not talking about people quitting for better jobs. Employees are reporting entire shifts disappearing overnight. One Reddit user said their store lost 10 workers with visas in a single day. Another reported 40 people gone from a 400-person store. Think about that math. That's 10% of their workforce just gone. But here's what makes this even more concerning. This isn't happening because of layoffs or store closures. It's happening because of a recent Supreme Court decision that allowed the Trump administration to revoke work protections for 500,000 migrant employees. Now, before you form an opinion about whether this is good or whether this is bad, let me show you what's actually happening on the ground. The remaining workers are being stretched so thin that older employees are constantly asking for help just to keep basic operations running. But if you think the Walmart situation is bad, wait until you hear what's happening to America's food supply. Right now, as I'm recording this video, crops are literally rotting in fields across California, Texas, Pennsylvania. And it's not because of weather, it's not because of disease. It's because up to 70% of farm workers have simply stopped showing up. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like. In Southern California, north of Los Angeles, there's a Mexican farm supervisor who usually oversees 300 workers. Last week, he had 80. Another supervisor who normally has 80 workers in his field, well, he's down to just 17. This is happening at peak harvest time, folks. Strawberries, vegetables, fruits, all rotting because there's no one to pick them. And before you say, well, Americans can do those jobs, let me ask you something. When was the last time you applied to pick strawberries for 12 hours a day in 90-degree heat? The CEO of the Farm Worker and Landscaper Advocacy Project put it bluntly, we do not have enough workforce in the United States to do manual work, to do those jobs that other people are not qualified to do and do not want to do. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to talk about. Over the past few years, during what the article calls the open border years, our economy became completely dependent on cheap migrant labor. This was not an accident. It was a business model. Companies could keep prices low, profits high, and consumers happy by relying on workers who would accept wages and conditions that most Americans wouldn't. Now, I'm not here to debate immigration policy. What I'm here to tell you is that this system is crashing, and the economic whiplash is just beginning. Think about it. If you remove millions of workers from the economy overnight, what happens? Basic economics tells us that either wages have to go up dramatically to attract American workers, or prices have to go up dramatically because there aren't enough workers, or both. But this goes way beyond just farms and retail stores. The article mentions meat packing plants and food processing facilities that are also being hit. That means every step of your food's journey from farm to table is being disrupted. When crops rot in fields, that's less supply. When processing plants can't find workers, that's a bottleneck. When stores can't stock shelves properly, that's distribution problems. All of this leads to one thing: higher prices for you. Now, let me break down some numbers that'll absolutely blow your mind. Ready for this? Okay. According to industry data, migrant workers make up about 73% of agricultural workers in the U.S. Yep, 73%. In states like California, which produces about 40% of America's fruits, vegetables, and nuts, that percentage is even higher. But here's what's really interesting. This isn't just about unskilled labor. Many of these workers have been doing these jobs for years, even decades. They've developed specialized skills in crop management, skills in equipment operation, skills in quality control that cannot be replaced overnight. Think about it this way. An experienced farm worker can pick about 200 pounds of strawberries per hour. A new worker might pick 50 pounds in the same time. That's a 75% productivity loss right there, even if you can find replacement workers. They simply won't be trained. And here's where it gets really interesting from an economic perspective. The labor market was already weak before this started happening. Private sector wage growth is slowing, unemployment duration is rising, and job seekers are giving up. But there's another layer to this crisis that most people don't understand. These industries operate on razor-thin profit margins. A typical farm operates on profit margins of just 2 to 5%. Let me say that again, 2 to 5% profit margin. Now, when you suddenly have to increase wages by 50 to 100% to attract workers, those margins disappear completely. Why are they in business? Why should they bother? Also, the construction industry is experiencing similar disruptions. Migrant workers make up about 25% of construction workers nationwide, but in states like Texas and California, that number jumps to over 40%. We're talking about roofers, drywall installers, landscapers, jobs that keep America's housing market functioning. Restaurant chains are also getting hit hard, from dishwashers to line cooks. These establishments relied heavily on migrant labor to keep food prices affordable. Some restaurants in affected areas are reporting they've had to reduce operating hours or close certain days of the week. So we have this perfect storm: mass labor shortages in critical industries, a weak job market for everyone else, and an economy that was built on a foundation that just got pulled out from under it. Now, I do have to mention some genuinely concerning security issues. There are cases of violent criminals being deported, including one particularly disturbing case involving someone who was literally described as a cannibal. And the violence happening in northern Mexico, particularly with cartels like the Sinaloa cartel, is absolutely real and horrifying. The government absolutely has a duty to protect us from that. But here's the question: is there a way to maintain security while not completely devastating our economy? That's the challenge facing policymakers right now. So where does this leave us? Should American citizens have to step up and fill these jobs? Is that realistic? You see, for that to happen, wages in these industries would have to increase dramatically. We're talking about jobs that currently pay minimum wage or close to it, with physically very demanding work and often dangerous conditions. If a strawberry picker's wage has to go from $15 an hour to $25 or $30 an hour to attract American workers, guess what happens to the price of strawberries? And that's assuming Americans are even willing to do the work at any price. The alternative is that we continue to see crops rotting, store shelves less stocked, and prices rising across the board. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to think about immigration policy. What I'm here to tell you is that this labor crisis is real, it's happening right now, and it is going to affect your daily life whether you're paying attention or not. The next time you go to your grocery store and notice higher prices or empty shelves, remember this video. The next time you hear politicians talking about immigration, ask them about their plan for filling the economic gaps. This story is just getting started. I'll be following it closely. Make sure you've subscribed, you've hit that notification bell, because this economic disruption is going to have big ripple effects for months or even years to come. To put this crisis in historical perspective, the last time America faced such sudden labor disruptions was during World War II, when millions of workers left their farms and factories for military service. Back then, the government created emergency programs like the Bracero program to bring in temporary workers from Mexico. Today, we're experiencing the reverse, a mass exodus without any coordinated replacement strategy. The economic data tells a stark story. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that food production employment has dropped by 12% in the past 6 months alone. Meanwhile, agricultural productivity per worker has fallen to levels not seen since the 1990s. This isn't just about individual businesses struggling. Entire regional economies built around agriculture are beginning to destabilize. What's particularly concerning is the timing. With global food prices already elevated due to climate challenges and supply chain issues worldwide, America's domestic production crisis could not have come at a worse moment. We're potentially looking here at a scenario where the world's largest food exporter becomes increasingly dependent on imports for basic necessities. What do you think? Are you seeing these labor shortages in your area? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. And thank you for subscribing to Epic Economist.